Some players just aren't playing well. Let's take a look at guys who might be buy low targets. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and my favorite food is pressed peanut sweepings. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms, but also thank you for making the entire Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Yesterday, I gave you guys on the recap show a challenge on YouTube to get me to 91,000 subscribers. I needed 50 more, and you did it. We hit it. So I do thank you guys a ton to be able to get that. The next aim, of course, is to get to 100,000. So I just need 9,000 more of you to hit the subscribe button, and I'm sure that'll happen by the end of this episode. We're talking buy lows. Should I do the caveats? Let's do the caveats. What are the caveats? If somebody is not on this list of 6 players I'm going to give you, that does not mean that they're not a buy low. Does not mean that. Not covering every player. If somebody is on the buy low show, it does not mean that you have to go and acquire them. You can, if you get a good deal. You do not have to make trades. It is not a rule in fantasy. You don't have to. You can. You don't have to. Find something that makes sense. A buy low trade is just getting someone below what you think their expected value is going to be, but also trying to eliminate the risk that they don't hit the number. So there's always a challenge with that. I'm not going to hold your hand and tell you, trade this player for this player. Because A, doesn't work because you don't have the player that if I suggested trade X player for Y, you might not have X player. It doesn't work that way. But also, process is generally more important than specific hand-holding instructions because nuance and different circumstances exist all the way through. The major takeaway I want you to get out of these buy low shows is that the players that are currently on the buy low list like this are just most likely to get better. And we're going to detail why that is. It's not just about pure rankings or anything like that. It's just about things that don't make sense that are probably going to improve. So if you've got them on your team, that's good. That's fine. That means that you're probably, most likely, at a pretty decent success rate, going to have them performing at a higher level as we move forward. That's a good thing. If you can acquire these guys for cheap, you do it. But if you can't, you don't. Simple as that. And the success of buy low trades nearly all the time just comes down to your ability to negotiate, to talk to your league mates, opponents, and be like, hey, look, let's see if something can work out for both of us here. So we're talking buy low deals. What I do, though, is in these, I like to give 2 weeks for stuff to marinate. And we will go back and check how we did 2 weeks ago when I presented 5 different names of buy low players. And let's see how their production has been in the 2 weeks since then. Go. And I am happy. Am I happy? I guess I'm happy. I'm happy to report that we had good success. The names that we had on the first buy low show. Amen Thompson was 114th. Despite yesterday's clunker, since then, he is 44th. W. Now, is Amen Thompson up to the level that some people were looking at him? To me, he was a mid to back end second round player, has not hit that. I didn't buy into him being a first round guy, thankfully, but still nowhere near where I've seen him at. And that's largely due to rebound dropping and big drops in defensive numbers. But a big improvement. And despite yesterday's game, he's been much better. Miles Turner was 112th. He's up to 53rd. And I think that 53 number for Turner is about bang on. I think that's probably your expectation rest of season. Cooper Flagg was 88th. Since then, 47th. W. He's got more, man. He has got more coming. He will have top 20 runs this season, I'm very certain. And I think next season he will be a second round pick. And I'd feel okay with it, honestly. That's how I see that progressing. Maximum Derek White was 69th. He just was shooting horribly. I still have worries about injury for him and stuff happening at the end of the year, but he's been ridiculously solid outside of just not being able to shoot. But 69th, and then since then, 33rd. We're on track. And the last one was not as successful, but it still classes as a win. Peyton Pritchard was 126th. Since then, he's 114th. But I will say this, the last 4 games of Pritchard have been top 70 value. So I reckon if I extended this out another week, he'd be looking much, much better. So I'm confident and I'm happy with the trajectory that Pritchard is currently on in terms of improving his production. So now we can talk about the buy lows now. We're week 5 in, so we're looking at the last 2 weeks of production and whether it makes sense that these guys are going to be better. And I'm going to put this name out here, and you're going to think that I'm joking. I'm not. And again, I think this should, because there is a lot of narratives, there are a lot of misrepresentations of what I say at times. And I'll be very clear about this. Someone said to me yesterday, Josh, I didn't draft Nikola Vucevic because you told me he was going to have a terrible season, which I very much did not. I did not tell you he would have a terrible season. I said that I expect some of his shooting stuff to regress from last season a bit and be a nice mid-round center, which I think is fair. I think is accurate. I got Vuce as a buy low. Now, it's a little harder after he had a solid game. It wasn't spectacular, but it was solid yesterday. But as I've said all along, I had Vuce in that, say, 48 to 60 range in the preseason. I have him 56th rest of season. Over the last 2 weeks, he's 128th. Yeah, he has not been playing well. That is very obvious. But despite the thought that I am just this Vuce hater and he did whatever he did to me at some point in the past, which again is just blatantly untrue, and then I'm wrong on Vuce every year, which is also blatantly untrue. Yes, I was wrong on Vuce last season, bang on the years before, but where we're at with him now, I think that him as a mid-round center is totally what he is. And at the moment, he's struggling. He's only averaging 7.8 rebounds a game over the last 2 weeks. He's only shooting 43 from the field. He can't even hit free throws at 63% there. His true shooting is under 50%. Now, he's averaging 2.7 assists, and I think with Kobe White back, that might actually stay low. 0.7 steals and 0.7 blocks? Well, those blocks are actually a bonus. You don't normally get that from Vuce. But for as much as I'm going to tell you that when he's shooting 48% from 3, there's no shot of it holding, when he's shooting 43% overall, I'll also tell you there's no shot of that holding. He'll push up closer to 50. So there's a big jump coming here for Vuce. Now, he still is a terrible defender. He still has limitations as an offensive guy at times. And the idea that he is a constant top 20 guy is just garbage. But this spot is the right area. Now, it is hard to buy low on Vuce when there are a bunch of people who deify him as a top 20 second round player. So I'm mainly pointing this out to tell you that Nikola Vucevic is very much underperforming expectations. And I think he's going to be much better than this. If you could get Vuce, and look, the way that Vuce usually works is he'll have a run where, and this is how most guys work. I'm just going to hit the sound because I made it. Most guys have a run where they underperform by a big amount, and they don't just then perform at average for the next 7 months to get back there. He'll have a run where he shoots, again, 46% from 3, 70% on 2s, and roll as the 25th best player for a week or two, and that'll re-average him back out. So when we're talking about a buy low on him, what's reasonable? I would doubt, in some leagues this will be the case, but in a lot of leagues it'll be harder to find the guy that grabbed Vuce with worry about buyouts or trades in an expiring contract. By the way, Bulls are bad at the moment, so this idea that they're going to push in the playoffs and then hold Vuce all the way through, not sure about that. They're bad at the moment. It is a harder one to do because of the perception of what Vucevic is, but there will be somebody who saw him fall at 60 and picked him and then saw what happened recently was being outplayed by Jalen Smith, and maybe you can do it. It's always just worth the discussion. But this is largely, again, to talk about process. It's largely to talk about, again, there's the idea that I've got subjective takes, which of course I do. These are opinions and projections. But this bias against Vuce, but just to show that the process is the way that all of this stuff is assembled and put out there. And Vuce is going to be much better than this. He's going to improve on this. He will not be a top 25 player, but he will be a top 60 guy, maybe a top 50 player. I would not give a top 40 guy and think that's a buy low on Vuce. That's crazy talk to me. But he can be better than this. I'm very, very confident in that. And I know he will be. Because I think, again, you will disagree, I know. I think I'm pretty realistic on the expectations of what he can provide. And that is where we're at with that. We've got more guys to talk about, including some other, or at least one other, European big man. Today's episode, though, it is also brought to you, or it is just brought to you by Rippling. If you are a business owner, here is the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and they simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD. Software as a disservice, and that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Onboarding, payroll, IT access, you can put it all and run it automatically and perfectly in sync, and it's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything that they touch. And right now you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnba. That is rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. We make decisions every day. Draft Vooch, don't draft Vooch, fade him, buy low, trade, whatever. But with Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. You can get all of that action, your NBA knowledge, put it to the test, and jump in on that action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, well, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to put together a lineup, and you can play anywhere that Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and in Georgia. Plus, their new stack feature means that you can play multiple stats from one player. In the past, you would have to pick Steph's points, all right? And because he's washed, you could have gone under. But you couldn't have added his threes or his assists into that. Now you can. You can stack up assists, steals, rebounds, blocks, whatever, of the one player into a stack. And if a player leaves early, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The code is LOCKEDONNBA. For $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Now we can go to one of Nikola Vucevic's former teammates, Zachary LaVine. And this might be a perfect time to buy low on LaVine because he was putrid yesterday. He is one of the worst defenders in the entirety of the NBA. I think we're all well aware of that. He's also one of the best shooters in the entire NBA and a very good offensive player. Now, there are times when you can criticize his impact on winning, rightfully so. You can criticize his ability to help others on his team get better, rightfully so. But that team is so disgustingly bad that at some point, if they want to have any success, we do need more LaVine. Now, as you're well aware, I faded every Kings player in draft season. I wouldn't have faded Keegan Murray had he not gotten injured, but I did. Every one of them because they're not additive, they're duplicative. They take away from others. The sum is less than the total is less than the sum of the parts because of the way they all operate. But LaVine is still playing poorly. Now you'll notice I've got him ranked 101st rest of season. I had LaVine, I think like 85th or something heading into the year, or 90th, which every time I looked at it, I went, that can't be right. You can't have Zach LaVine there. That seems wrong. But I ran the numbers and it was still there. I'm like, okay, what is it? Well, what it is like no steals, no blocks, and a significantly reduced assist load, which got even worse with Westbrook there. So I do not see LaVine as a top 50 player, 60 player, 70 player. I see him as much better than he currently is, though. He's averaging just 25 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. He had some illness in there, yes, but like the thing that's fresh in people's memories is yesterday's game, which was atrocious. I think he's a 31 fantasy point guy. So what's actually going on here? He's averaging 15.8 points. That's bad, right? Like, it's bad for what LaVine is. He's averaging 2.8 assists. Now, we saw his assist numbers in Chicago be pretty good. But I'll say this, and this is again why I was down on him. Once he joined Sacramento last season, that number reduced by like 25%. His assist numbers dropped. I think they, off the top of my head, it went from like, again, rough numbers, from like 5 to 4, right? Because of the presence of Sabonis and DeRozan. Now you've got DeRozan, Sabonis, Schroeder, Westbrook. The assists, they probably rise, but I'm not sure they rise by that much, to be honest. That's not what we're looking at. Low steals and low blocks, yeah, they're bad. That's just who he is, again, why I had him down low. But it's the other things that I truly believe in Zach LaVine with. He's hitting 77% from the line. He's way better than that. You could easily add 10 percentage points onto that, and I wouldn't blink. His usage is under 20%. And now there's a lot of guys who think they need the ball and a lot of shots on this team, and I think it's actually negative in terms of the team's success. I just don't believe that Zach LaVine is going to roll around with a under 20% usage. It does not add up or make sense. And then we add on to that he also just can't hit any twos. 50% on twos. Okay, is he the greatest finisher in the world? No. Does he need to be? Not really. He just needs to be Zach LaVine. And that shouldn't be that hard for him to get to. Like, he is a guy that I think shot 46% on threes. And we all know when someone hits 46% on threes, you look at that and go, ooh, absolutely no way. Let's drop 6 percentage points off that for the next season. Right? Because no one's likely to repeat that. And if they do, good luck to them. All those outliers, you're always bringing them back down. But LaVine is a guy, like, and to be honest, we say this, he's still hitting 46% of threes, which makes it even crazier that his usage is so low. He is knocking the shots down. His 2-point percentage is what's really holding him back from an elite efficiency run here. He just needs more minutes and more usage as the literal best shooter on this team and best offensive player on this team. Now, you should have skepticism about whether Doug Christie realizes this. You should. And I could even see the argument here. Like, even though I've got LaVine ranked 101st rest of the season, you go, that's way too low, Josh. And I get that, right? So if a buy low on LaVine, it might be just honestly sending a guy that's ranked around 100. Because it is possible, and because the margins between the 100th best player and the 70th best player are slim, man. They're so small. It's half an assist. It's 0.4 steals. It's 2 percentage points on your field goals. That's the difference between those spots. So while LaVine is, at the moment, like barely rosterable theoretically, if you want to send the 100th guy to get him, even if he might end up 91st or 80th or 102nd, I think it's reasonable. Because I don't know how LaVine is worse than this. Well, man, I do. He just shoots 36% from three for a couple of weeks and nothing else improves. But at some point, I do believe it will turn back around in his favor. Or, I don't know what we're doing. The next couple that we're going to do are going to require some pretty decent cojones. It's going to require negotiation. And it's going to require very certain sort of situations in your league as to where you're positioned. Because I'm talking about Mark Williams. Mark is an enigma. It is easily possible that this man can put up top 30 numbers. He's not, but it's very easy that he can do it. But we all know that he has had problems with his knee this season. But that's not what he had problems with in the past. He had problems with his back or problems with his foot. At the moment, it's a knee problem. I don't think you should expect Mark Williams to play back-to-backs this season at all. But what is encouraging is his minutes are pretty solid. But the production's not quite there. I think for him, realistically, with the way the Suns team is playing, very well by the way, but with how they're structured, he's a top 60-ish sort of a guy. At the moment, he's barely registering as a top 100 player. He's averaging just 27 fantasy points. I think he's a 34 fantasy point guy. Over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 11 points and 8 rebounds. He's not attempting any threes, which I think he's got maybe some ability to do, but he's not doing that. His shot blocking is in the toilet. And that's a concern. That's a concern. Well, we go and dig into some of the numbers about why like the block numbers are low. Like he's averaging 0.7 blocks, which is like those are Vooch numbers. All right, he should be a better shot blocker than that. Last season, he defended 10.9 shot attempts at the rim per 100 possessions. It is lower, but it's not that much lower. It's at 9.6 this season. Last season, his block numbers were 2.2 per 100 possessions. This season, they're at 1.7. But you'll notice that over the last 2 weeks, it's even lower. So, the way that I look at this for Williams is that, yes, the shot blocking numbers are down, but it's not down necessarily for the whole season because he started off pretty well blocking shots. It's just recently. He just isn't doing it. He's just not getting his hands on it. He's contesting a very similar amount of shots. It's not that different. It's different enough, but it's not that different. He's still causing issues in terms of reducing opponents' field goal percentage at the rim in deterrence levels at a similar amount, right? It's still similar. It's just that the contests aren't turning into blocks. Simple as that. And I have faith that that'll improve. He's at 1.3 assists. Okay. There is a big difference there because last season, he averaged 6.3 potential assists. This season, he might be one of the worst in the entire NBA at 2.5. And that one is when we go, okay, is he not being asked to do anything with the ball? That's possible, right? And I think we make an adjustment on that. But the defensive part of it, the blocks, even the low rebounds, I've got pretty high levels of confidence that they're going to improve. The usage, the maybe improved playmaking, not so sure about it. And that's why I don't project him now as a top 30 guy, because of the way that he's being used. But I don't really have any concern about the guy, and I don't know the exact number of this, I'll make this up. This is hyperbole, right? But it's close enough. One of the top ever recorded standing reach players. I'm pretty sure Mark Williams was. I don't think it was vertical or leaping height or whatever they call it. I think it was like standing reach. He had one of the largest standing reaches ever. I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't turn into Vooch as a rim protector. Right? I think he's better than that. His efficiency is bang on. 63 from the field, 89 from the line. That is part of the reason for categories in particular. He's so good. A big man who blocks shots, get rebounds, scores okay, is elite efficiency at both. If you added the assist back, then we'd be absolutely cooking. But when I say like it's a risk, like you don't know when he'll be limited, miss games, and he's going to miss back-to-backs. Therefore, I don't actually know you need to give up much, especially because people are complaining about what Mark Williams is doing. That is why I spend my entire day, like a loser, reading fantasy basketball comments and forums and all that sort of things to see what the vibe is on players. And the vibe on Mark Williams at the moment is bad. This guy's bad, doesn't grab rebounds, he doesn't do anything. What's he doing out there? He's just doing cardio, right? So, it does take balls. But the price is very low. And the confidence you should have in him, not hurt at the moment, hasn't been hurt, it should be okay. You should have a level of confidence in what Mark Williams is currently doing. Or in his ability to at least not be out the rest of the season. With a couple of little tweaks, we are back in business. And I honestly don't think you need to give up much. When I get questions coming in, hey, do I drop Mark Williams to go and add X player? Then you know that there are people who are like, done. I don't view this guy highly. Hey, Zach Edey's on my way. Do I drop Mark Williams? I mean, you add Edey, but if you're putting Mark Williams in the discussion, then he's acquirable. So go and have a look. We've got two more guys to talk about. Is it two more? Three more. Three more guys to talk about. We'll come back and do that. Today's episode, though, it is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, but every day, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, then beating it again. You channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trading stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. And plus, you can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that is robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rugiet. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. You've heard them before. I'm tired. Stress. I think your sister's pretty... Oh, that's not it. Wait. No, not in the script. No, it just happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. It's easy to get started with Rugiet. You get connected with a board-certified doctor, 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. You don't have to sit there next to someone and go, yours not working either? No. All right, Rugiet time, I guess. Online, doctor prescribes it, and it ships discreetly to your door in a discreet little package. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. That is rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNBA so that they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. The moves on that copy, you've got to be really cautious that you've zoomed in enough that you don't read that as movies, because different meaning altogether, I guess, if that's the direction you decide to go. We're here talking buy lows for fantasy basketball. Hit the subscribe. I'm probably already there at 100K. So, just add an extra one on. I'm sure we got 9,000 already in this show, so just hit the extra subs on that. It'd be sick. again, sometimes the buy lows are the friends you make along the way. Or it's ones where you go, is it actually a buy low? Because Cedric Coward just got inserted into the Grizzlies starting lineup. And people have been calling for this for the first 5 weeks of the season. It happened. But what happened? Much like with Derek Queen, Coward moved into the starting lineup and the minutes were down and the production wasn't as good. So there are going to be people who are like, really? Really? He did the opposite of the sell high trick. And you know the sell high trick. It's when opportunity opens up to you through injury and you pair that with a usage increase as well as a completely unsustainable efficiency rise, or one of your other stats goes up through the roof to make you look way better than you are. Coward, the opportunity arose. He moved into the starting lineup, and as he's done that, all of his numbers have fallen off. So it makes you go, maybe he's not as good. Now, I have not been as high of a believer on Coward as others. I've tried to keep a relatively even keel on what Coward has done because, I try to look at things and go, not sure that holds. There's a lot of stuff there that's a little fluky, so let's all be cautious about this. But again, it's about, I believe, a realistic expectation. Coward, I've actually got him as a top 80 player rest of season for category leagues. I've got him as a 32 fantasy point player. But over the last 2 weeks, he's under 29. Over the last 2 weeks, he's outside the top 100. Why? And we've been detailing this. He had really big steal and block numbers in college. Over the last 2 weeks, he is almost giving us a Ryan Anderson. 0.6 steals and 0.4 blocks. Part of the reason why he burst onto the scene to begin the year was 80% shooting, but also insane steal and block numbers. And they're gone. I believe that they will improve. His scoring is down. He has, and this has been a problem all season. He is, I don't want to use, maybe I will, because he is the chicken. He's a little scared of shooting at times. As the season progresses, and now Demetrius Morant is out for 2 weeks. By the way, Vince Williams is the ad there. I don't know when Ty Jerome is coming back. It might be soon, but Jerome will be better when he's eventually there. But can you afford to hold and stash and wait? Williams is the guy for now. Cam Spencer, deeper league. Should have referenced that off the top, but that's not the point of this show. Anyway, Coward will take more shots. There is the risk that with more shots, they don't go in. That is true. And you can see Coward's numbers are really quite bad at the moment. He's shooting 31% from three. Remember, his early season run, he was hitting 60% from three. He's at 38% overall from the field. Those are Alex Sarr numbers from last season. And all that stuff, I believe, is going to improve. He has done the full gamut. These are insane numbers. You are shooting 67% from three and 75% overall, getting 2 steals a game, making you look like the greatest steal of all time, which, again, I think a lot of what we look at is role, usage, and how sustainable are the shooting numbers, which we called, or I called as you may have called as okay, this stuff is not real. But this has gone too far in the other direction, where, he's just now got to adjust to an extra responsibility, extra expectation, but he's not going to be this bad. I feel very confident that Cedric Coward, the chicken, is going to be better. And as his confidence re-rises, I think he holds in the starting lineup. I think the presence of Zach Edey can help him. But it's really about, do you think that he can be a 36% shooter? Seems reasonable. Can he be from three? Can he hit 53% of twos instead of 47? Seems reasonable. Can his true shooting at least hit league average? 56, 57? Seems reasonable. Can he get, 1 steal a game? 0.6 blocks? Not outrageous numbers. And honestly, if those things happen without even going to the outlier extremes of before, then he's back in business. So it is possible that someone had him, fell in love, grabbed him after he'd had his 3 hot games at the start of the season, and honestly has then been underwhelmed and then saw the league's figured him out. Rookie wall, which is a very common thing that people talk about. They talk about that all the time. Now, it was always going to come down, but it's gone way past the average mark. It's way past the baseline now. And it's going to come back up. And again, these sort of buy lows, it's very specific as to how you look at them. One of the main overriding things I look at in all sort of fantasy evaluation is role. Role is important. Now, I'm still somewhat concerned about where his usage goes because he's a little scared of being involved at times. But I think that will gradually creep up. And I'm very confident that steals, blocks, 2-pointers, 3-pointers will all increase. They will all increase as it goes along. So you're looking for a reactive manager, someone who bought in that he was going to be a top 30 player, who now is annoyed that he's a droppable level player, and you're trying to hit the middle ground. You're not going too hard on it. And I reference ranking numbers because they're especially using my Durant formula, because it gives you a basic overview, but never, ever just use the number without understanding why it's there. Don't ever just say top 30 is 100. You got to know why something happens, how it gets there, and how reasonable it is to be able to maintain that. And I think that's where we need to be at with the chicken. Cuckoo, kacha. And now we're talking about having a big old Rugiet going, because I'm telling you that I think there's a buy low for Kristaps Porzingis. Again, frustrations mount. Maybe I'm just getting old. Well, not maybe, I am, obviously. But I am finding more and more, the more we go through things, the more this channel grows, the more the fantasy basketball gets through to new people, the people's patience levels drops. People make decisions on drops a quarter into a game. They don't let anything sit and marinate. So Porzingis, frustrating, very frustrating that on the final day of your matchup, he sat out with knee soreness, not on a back-to-back, after sitting out the game before due to a back-to-back. Very frustrating. I understand that. I had him in my leagues, and I lost leagues because of it. It's okay. I get that. It's frustrating. I understand that having Porzingis on your team leads to some of these things. But again, this is the reverse of the extra opportunity bump up. Porzingis has now missed those 2 in a row. Porzingis has dodgy knees and is always a risk. But also, when he's been on the court lately, it has not been good. So it is entirely possible that you can get really good value for Porzingis. I'll tell you why. He's been 82nd over the last 2 weeks. A lot of people will think he's been way worse than that, and I understand that. I think he can be top 50 per game, because I'm a little worried about what his minute ceiling actually is. If he played 32 minutes, he's a top 30 player. But when you're missing games, and in the games you're playing, you're doing the following things. 1 3 a game at 22%. Come on. 4 rebounds a game. You are 7'3". He's never been an elite rebounder, but 7 or 8 is, reasonable. 40% on twos. 52% true shooting. 16 points per game. I don't care what you think about Porzingis and his injury history and his health. I don't think anybody, when you look at the numbers, goes, that's reasonable. That's actually probably in line with what Porzingis does on a per game basis. But I think that the person who has Porzingis, and half of this buy low show goes, if you've got Porzingis, listen to this. Because you'll be annoyed. Bloody dickhead. Cost me the matchup. Knee sword, never going to play. Useless. He's terrible, right? Some of you will have that gut visceral reaction. And I get that. I understand the frustrations. But he's not this bad. He is not a 22% shooter. He's not a 40% shooter from 2. He's not a 33% shooter overall. He's not a 16-4 guy. He's just not. So you pair the downturn in production with the absence, and he might not need to really pay anything. He's been 82nd over the last 2 weeks. What is someone giving up? They just might be I'm done. Especially if that roster also has other injured guys on it. Now, be very cautious. Don't add Porzingis to a team that has Embiid, or Kawhi, or Mark Williams, or Paul George, or LaMelo Ball, or Zion Williamson. Don't add your risk up there. But it's always about, think of yourself as a predatory businessman. Can I take over this failing company right now? Pennies on the dollar? And if it doesn't work out, what am I costing myself? Don't give up a top 50 guy. Stupid, don't do that. Find the person who's floundering and see if you can take advantage of it. And that leads to profit in fantasy. Not in a predatory way, but sort of. You're not being an idiot and stealing their phone and lying to them. You're just trying to take advantage of situations that present themselves. And that brings us to our last thing. The 9-cat loser. Because there are going to be people who strictly adhere. I see it because people talk to me about it in mentions all the time. About they will look at the rankings on Yahoo and the ranking number, and that will tell them how they value a player. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kristaps Porzingis' teammate, is currently, over the last 2 weeks, the 144th ranked player with straight 9-cat ranking, which would suggest to you, dear viewer, listener, that the 144th ranked player is barely rosterable. In a 10-team league, you leave them on the waiver wire. In a 12-team league, they are a streamable asset. And I'm here to tell you, no, that's just not the case. Using Durant head-to-head rankings, Alexander Walker is 67th over the last 2 weeks. Because I would get you to look at the fact that he's averaging 19 points, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 0.8 steals, 1 block on 48 and 82, hitting 2.2 threes a game, and say, how's that a guy that you leave on the waiver wire? Because it's not. Because the way that those ranking formulas are incorrectly formulated and incorrectly applied leads to situations like this. So, can you get Nickeil Alexander-Walker for nothing? You might. I had the questions. Again, I hear it. Do I just drop Alexander Walker? He's ranked 180th over the last week. He's doing nothing. Okay, sick. I'll have him. Yeah, he's not averaging 7 rebounds. Who cares? He's not quite at 1 steal. Oh, that doesn't take that much to get there, my guy. Efficiency is great. Free throws are strong. Field goals are strong. 3-pointers are strong. Scoring is good. Assists are okay. Blocks are great. This is not a waiver wire player. But it's a guy that's made to look that way by the way those flawed rankings are presented. And that's what I want to do every week on one of these shows, is highlight that sort of guy who looks way down on the rankings, that if someone actually just buys into what that is, what the actual value is, you can take advantage of it. And that is a buy low show. Is there anybody, and I know there is there anybody else that you would have had on that list of guys who are underperforming that you think is a buy low? Because I know there are plenty more. A lot of the guys that appeared on my buy low list are currently injured as well, which leads to difficulties in acquiring them. But it's always a possibility. I'm sure we're already at 100,000, but if you could just keep hitting subscribe, that would be great to get us there. I'll be back later on with a preview of Tuesday. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.